We're going to get started. I think we got everybody that told me they were going to be here. There may be somebody that comes in, somebody that has to leave. For the committee, y'all have a tracking document, and these are suggestions that have come out of with the House budget and suggestions that we have made through the meeting process. As we go through them, I'm going to tell you there may be mistakes, there may be corrections, there may be additions or deletions, whatever the committee wishes to do. Anything that is changed on the tracking document is highlighted in yellow. Some of these are going to be nothing but language changes. I'll try to explain them, and what we'll do, if it's all right with y'all, is if we go through each one, if you want to make a change, if anybody wants to make a change, just bring it up, and we'll try to see what we're going to do. The Court of Appeals is on page 4 of 24. All of those are language changes to provide for up to a 4% pay increase for those are items 5, 6, and 7 with language that says yes. You see $0, but that's to provide where they were not included in a pay raise. Any changes, additions, questions, comments on that page? If not, next section, and we can come back now if we need to. Next question is Judicial Council. Lines 11, 12, and 13 are the same language changes there to $0. Line 20, provide funding for the Judicial Council Standing Committee on Drug Courts. The governor recommended, I thought that was going to be, that's $1 million. I thought that was going to be $1.5 million. Oh, we added it back though, right?
The transfer.
Yeah, we transferred it. Yeah, it's going to be $1.5 million total, but it's the way it shows up on here. From we took $500,000 out here and added $500,000 back in the. We'll find it in a minute. It's going to be $1.5 million total.
So it'll be $1.5 million.
Be $1.5 million total.
Okay.
Isn't that right?
Huh? 22.
Okay, I hadn't caught up with it. Okay, yeah, 24. You see it there?
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's an $800,000 cut on reduce operations transfer on line 24. There's the $1 million add. 25, 26, 27 is nothing but language changes for the pay raises. Lines 29, 30, and 31 under judicial qualifications is language on the 4% pay raises. Any questions or on that page? If not, page 6, the Judicial Council had requested on line 32 additional money on the habeas cases. That's zeroed out. If anybody wants to put anything back in, just speak up now. And whatever y'all want to do. And just because it's on the additions, it doesn't mean that we can't do anything on additions or deletions on anything.
What happened in supplemental on the diversion center in Dawson? The 13,000. Did anything?
The last I've seen, it was taken out.
Out. So we may need to
Put that back in.
Okay. We will when we get to corrections.
Okay.
Representative Porter, what we were trying to do is go page by page, and if anybody's got any,
So when we get to public safety,
or yeah, I guess it would be under public safety. But anywhere that you want to make a change now, just bring it up. A lot of these yellow markings had to do with the pay raises being left out of judicial. Page 7, line 34. And 35, 36, and 37. Well, 34 is a cut of the 41,000. Lines 35, 36, 37 are the language changes for pay raises. You will see the cut on line 34 actually added back on line 40, and 41 is the mandatory money for the only one judgeship, but it says 4, but 3 of them are already included. Any questions? Or
Why is that under juvenile courts?
that is the monies, and it's by statute. I think Kirsten can tell you probably better than I can.
Actually, Code Section 151118, for every 4 Superior Court judges, there's funding that's put in for 1 juvenile court judge. After 4, then it's based on the formula.
I see.
Colita, I think, was the only one that was affecting.
That's right.
That was over the 4.
Okay.
So that's why it's only 21,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or anything anybody would like to change or on that? Page 8, prosecuting attorneys. You'll see a change on line 45 and a reduction. Line 46, a reduction. Line 47, 48, and 49 are the pay raises. Then you will see on line 50 the district attorneys for the 4 new judgeships as required by statute. Then let me make a comment on line 52. The governor's recommendation was $500,000. That is to initiate a judicial circuit integrated communication project in another judicial circuit. There is a possible problem in Cordell Circuit on being $200,000 short to finish that project up. So that's why that shows up as $700,000 instead of $500, is to take care of the Cordell Circuit. And it may be that there are some dollars left over out of that, and if they are, Dean, they went up to 514. Thank you. I knew what you were waiting on. Anyway, that's why that was changed from 500 to 700,000. Lines 58, 59, and 60 are the language changes for the pay raises. Any questions on that page, or any comments, additions, corrections, deletions, suggestions that anybody might have? Page 9, public defenders. There's actually the only thing under the Public Defenders or Standards Council were the language for any pay raises that were left out. That's the only change on that page. Any questions? Now let me explain something there. They being the public defenders are projecting a shortfall in their budget for next year. But what their suggestion was to wait to the supplemental to address that, where they would have a better idea. So that's why you don't see any adjustments there. Any questions? Page 10, Superior Court, 71, 72, 73 is language changes. You will see the statewide on 75 felony and juvenile drug courts to AOC $1 million. That's just a language change. There is under Superior Court judges under line item 76, that would be secretaries are affected by that. Last year we put monies in for secretaries that we thought were going to be annualized. They were not annualized. This would give them the 5th step increase, but it would only begin April the 1st of 2007. That's only 1 quarter. But that would put them, as they testified about, and the judges did, that would take care of their salary. Now, there may be a question on that. I may not have explained that one very right. 77, 78, 79 is language change for raises. Number 80, or is it the 4 new judgeships for Houston, Blue Ridge, Coweta, and Paulding circuits? That's the dollars there.
How was that settle of the 10 that were recommended?
That's the 4 top.
That's the 4 top.
That's the 4. That's right down the. That's right down the priority list. It sure is.
You happy with that, Mr. Chairman?
That's not mine.
Huh?
That's
I'm talking about.
That's not his.
Oh, it's not yours, Blue Ridge?
I'm Appalachian.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So thank you for asking.
Sorry about that. I thought we had it.
And to boast, those are in order: Houston, Blue Ridge, Coweta, and Paulding. We listed them in order in case anything got cut. It would be listed in order there. Supreme Court, items 83, 84, 85 are language changes for pay raises. Department of Corrections on line 12, I'm on page 12 of 24. You will see number 95. That's the four-day reporting centers. That's a language of a no in there from 2,000 to 0. There's a reduction on line item number 99. Now, let me explain 100 to you. 100, you're going to see in all of law enforcement, this is an additional 2% pay raise. Now, that's in addition to what the governor recommended. However, it is not every position. It is the positions, and I can get you a list. It is the positions these are entry level, and I would call them mid-entry. Is that mid-level and below? That's an additional 2% for your guards and so forth. You'll see that with the troopers. You're going to see that throughout. If there's any questions, we'll address them on that page. Alan, Jill, if y'all have any questions. Jill, we're on page 12 of 24.
Thank you. I had press in
And
my office.
that's all right. And we're going to go through it. If you got any questions, comments, or want to add anything or take away anything, all you got to do is ask, or we'll talk about it. On page 13, line 109, that is a no to take that money out. Line 112 is zeroed out with a no also. 113 is an add to provide funding for hepatitis B immunization. Line item 116 is a decrease in the CPI increase per day on 470 additional inmates. You will see line items 123 and 124. Those are languages no also on those. Any questions or comments?
Do you know how we administer that hepatitis B? I mean, are we doing that in-house or outsourcing?
It's not being done at all now.
Okay.
And that's the money. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled, but that's just the dollars. And that's only the dollars for about a third of what it will take. But this will at least get the program to beginning, and it'll be about a 3-year program at that amount, and then that amount will drop back down once they have the population inoculated.
So we don't know whether it's going to be in-house or outsourced?
I don't know. That's a number that they came back with to try to get it started. Yes, sir.
Best I can tell, in the it does appear that most of the funds for reducing those jail backlogs, the sheriff still remained in the budget.
They're still there. Line item 136 on page 14. Wilcox State Prison. That's to purchase a generator, a transfer switch, and an installation. There is no backup power source at that prison if the power goes off. Also at that prison, and it is not in here, and we need to, the city of Sycamore has a problem with their sewage system, which their sewage system is 2/3 of it is the inmate population, and they need forgotten what it's called. I told them we would talk about it. It's $36,000, and basically it busts the sludge up to keep their oxidation pond in compliance, and it's due to that prison that we may want to add back in there. Page 15. This is the Department of Defense. You'll see line item 144 is a transfer. 145.
Did Matthew tell you he went ahead and did the 3 programs?
Right, he did the 3 programs, and they're broken out. Here's what you'll see instead of all being lumped in together. As you'll see, there are a lot of changes here, and that's because of breaking them out. Mainly is what that is. It's where it's broke. That's why you'll have the 144, the reduction, and then you see a lot of it added back in.
Let me ask you about 147.
Okay.
What is that going to do now?
Do you want to try to explain it? You want me to? And somebody from the Department of Defense is here. I think they're here. They may can explain it better than
I've
we
been
can.
on this program a couple
Right.
times.
And they're wanting to transfer the program.
Death in the family had to leave, so I don't know.
We'll get you the answer to that.
Okay.
Call them if you want.
This was their recommendation, though. This was the department's recommendation when they were here before. Page 17 is driver services, line item 170, 171, and 173 are changes. 170 was Representative Ralston's request for a custom new. I don't know if y'all remember seeing the pictures of the 400 square feet that they were trying to put 30,000 people through a year. That's to fund that. Item 171 is Representative Hurd's request to try to upgrade the building that is already there. I think the space is sufficient, but the building needs to be upgraded in Athens for driver services. And then you're going to see on line 173 a reduction in the motorcycle safety education from 100 to 50,000, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. It's going to show back up in another place. GBI is line item 182 is a 2% salary adjustment on the 3 special agent positions on page 18. Page 19, Department of Juvenile Justice, line item 197. That is the additional 2%, like we talked about under corrections, to try to correct is to give an additional 2% salary increase to those positions. Line item 206 is a reduction in the supervision program of 30. It is not actually eliminating them. It's just delaying those positions by 6 months. And then you will see that reduction on line item 206. You'll see that money added back in line 211. That is on the maintenance where they were, if you remember, there were 35, isn't that right, maintenance employees. This would be to keep that maintenance contract. Department of Law, there's no changes. Pardons and parole. You'll see line item 230. That's the 2% increase also for parole officers, same as it was on corrections and DJJ. Department of Public Safety. You will see several additions here under administration, executive security. You will see the 10 trooper motorcycle unit zeroed out with a no beside that. Now, let me tell you where that no goes. That no went to line item, part of it went to line item 246. If you remember, and Representative Green had a problem with losing post secretaries. What that does, right now there's 16, isn't that right, Terry, posts without secretaries, that troopers are actually doing the secretarial work. By putting 12 of those positions back in, and we're going to make sure the language is there that Cuthbert is included in one of those 12. But what we're doing there is trying to get 12 of those back to get more troopers back on the road and out of the office. Now, let me tell you about the 243. We passed a bill yesterday that was Representative Chambers' bill about these 10 trooper motorcycles. Those 10 motorcycle positions would not be new troopers. They would be troopers that are pulled in from across the state out of your post, possibly at home, to fill these positions. That's not 10 more sworn positions. So if anybody asks you about that, you would know.
How much money do we anticipate generating from that?
I don't know.
I think that's unknown, and I think that with the passage of the bill, if it makes it out of the Senate, it's my impression that the funds generated in that could allow them to do this in-house. So that way we wouldn't have to actually have a special line item for that. They do specify that they want experienced troopers doing that. They're not going to be new people graduating out of trooper school that become motorcycle troopers. So I think by the passage of the bill and with your support, Representative Porter, we're going to be able to do that without actually having a specific line item in the budget and let them do that in-house.
We need to add some new troopers. I mean, I know they're taking whatever comes out of the class, but
Well,
generate to pay for additional troopers is sure needed. When you draw some out of already, what's happening with them over the last couple of years,
I agree with you.
to shift them all here, there's a lot of other areas out of balance. We need to figure out a way to do the.
You want to comment on that too?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have the same problem up in Forsyth County.
You're short 4 troopers in that post
Well, they're
now.
supposed to have 12, they've got 8, and they're patrolling Lumpkin, Dawson, and Forsyth County, and they're closing the post at 11 p.m. I mean, that's a
Well,
bad situation.
If you see these additions, they're trying to work toward correcting some of that.
How many schools do we have? Trooper schools.
Schedule?
I thought there was one coming.
There's one. Wait a minute, there is
There's
one.
one coming
There's
up.
one coming up, isn't it, Terry? How many trooper schools are scheduled?
We are currently running 2. One is about to graduate in March.
March 24th.
And there's one,
The other is supposed to graduate in August.
yeah, that's the
And
new
we
one.
plan on starting one for next year out of current funds.
Current funds.
Continuation.
Yeah, there's no line item, though, for funding for another school, right?
And that's 50 troopers, 50 in the school, 50.
That start off.
We have 25 in each of these classes that are one is about to graduate 25. The other has 25 in it that should graduate in August. And then we're going to try to establish, we actually are looking at trying to bring in a greater number so that we can actually graduate 50 from the trooper school that we start for next year.
Does that answer you?
Yeah.
That's your
what I need.
question.
Keep moving on. We're annualizing the 2 schools, so we'll just
Yeah.
keep building them up.
Yeah, see, you're annualizing those costs of those 2
We went
schools.
from 1 to 2 schools last year.
Yeah, we went from 1 to 2 last year. This committee did that last year.
But the one school last year was a 50, and now we went to 2 schools at 25 apiece.
So one of them was 50 and one of them was 25 last year.
Yeah, and now we're at 2 at
25. I know, we're not catching up very fast.
We're not getting a net gain.
Hopefully, item 245 may help somewhat with that. If you will see, that's additional 2% for those positions there.
Yes.
Then you'll see the collision reconstruction team was an increase. Also, the Firefighter Standards and Training Council. Last year, this committee put $96,000 in there to help them with their testing, and it did not get annualized. I thought that it was. Maybe it's my mistake. I thought it was going to be annualized. It was not annualized, so that is an addition to put that back, and to also increase the computer charges, requiring that to certify the volunteer firefighters. That actual number requested is $22,000 instead of $16,000. Now, any additions that y'all want to put in, anything you want to cut, or whatever y'all want to do with it? Go right ahead.
Well, I was just waiting to see what happened with supplemental, but if the money did not get in there, we got several mothball diversion centers not going to be used that we had talked about the other.
That was $300,000.
It was $300,000. We started to convert the first one in Dalton. If we could put that back in here.
I don't have a problem. Does anybody have an objection to putting that $300,000? I forgot. Did y'all run a total? We've got a cut in here of about. I didn't run the total either. There's close to $15 million in cuts in here. So we've got the money to put it
And
back.
a little back there. That's just the one. If that's not going to be in supplemental, apparently it's not.
You want to put it back in
What would that cost?
$300,000. And
And that was to convert buy the beds.
we figured that's about $1,000 a bed, and I think Dale said that y'all should be able to cover it with that, shouldn't you? Has anybody got an objection to doing that? Y'all would put that one back in, Eileen, please. Put it under, now, one of those facilities has been transferred to you and one has not, isn't that right?
Well, this morning, excuse me, sir, this morning, the Department of Corrections wrote a resolution to transfer both, the one in East Dublin and the one in Dalton. And the Board of Public Safety has already voted resolutions to accept them. The only thing we're waiting on is State Properties Commission to meet.
Wouldn't we be better off to put that in your budget? That's where it needs to, where that money needs to be. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that'd be better.
If that's the will of the committee.
Right answer. Right answer, Dale. You're doing good.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'll ask them, where's the bond money? You got it?
Yeah, forgot about that one.
Forgot it. Okay, I'm glad you asked. Any other questions y'all have? Any additions you want to put in here? Anything you want to add back?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a question on Department of Corrections.
Which page you on?
Be page 12. See if the department is here, might can answer the question.
Go ahead.
Is
Yeah,
anybody here from the department?
yeah, somebody's here. They're here from the department if you want to answer. Go right ahead.
Could you tell me on line 99 what programs are going to be, or where this 13%?
They may not have seen it now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to explain it to them?
Just curious about where all that.
You want to give them the news?
I'm just interested where that 7.4 million.
What he is talking about is reduce administration program by 13%, which is $7.4 million. You want to get back to him on that?
If that's the will of the committee. That's represented all week.
Yeah, put it back in the motorcycle.
That's the first we heard. I wouldn't be able to begin to answer that question without looking at it.
Any other questions about anything? I mean, y'all speak up. Don't be bashful.
No, we got our drug court money. I'm sitting good.
I think you could, but you know what we've heard in Mr. Chairman, the committee, hearings and everything.
We tried to take everything we heard, and I apologize that I did forget yours. I apologize about that. It wasn't intentional.
See what happened in supplemental.
Right.
I knew the resolutions were moving, and if they're moving, then this ought to track that to take care of it.
Mr. Chairman, we could make that 7.4, 7.6, and then add the motorcycle troopers back.
Whatever you want to do.
So moved.
Did y'all understand what she wants to do?
No, would you clarify?
She wants to move number 99, which is 7.4, to read 7.6, and then take that 200,000 and put it back into public safety or state patrol under the 10 motorcycle unit.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Would that then eliminate the need to divert these troopers from other places?
No, sir. That's my only concern right there. Isn't that right, Terry, that it would still be, you'd still have to use troopers that are in some other area of the state, or possibly some other area of the state here?
The funding for the motorcycle unit is only the equipment and the motorcycle. It is not personnel.
Could we delay the implementation of the program until after the new trooper school comes online?
So I just printed this one page.
Well, you could do that, or you could, we'll do it ever how you wish to do
We
it.
could delay the implementation by one fiscal quarter, which would put it into, into October 1st, so that way the new graduates are in, the new 25 graduates will be out and on the streets.
Let's hear from
Terry, you want to comment on that? Do you mind? Do you understand what she was asking?
It's not going to change the cost for equipment, but we will have 50 troopers graduated in that time. The only potential difficulty is we will have some turnover also between now and then. So, add more.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Doug. Just go right ahead.
But would that eliminate to some degree our concern about diverting people from other posts into this program in the short term?
Yeah.
The way that they're looking at it right now is to look for volunteers, and in that respect, it could be anywhere statewide that wants to come and try that. So it would potentially divert some. The only thing is if you take that into consideration, that's part of where when we graduated trooper school, we assign people where they're going to work. So this 50 will go where we have the need.
But my question, though, I don't know what the number up in North Georgia is. I think Representative Murphy said you're 4 short.
4 short up there.
So what if one of his, using his example, what if one of the troopers at his post or at the Forsyth County post volunteer? I mean, then you're into a 5 short, are you not? with no real expectation until the school has been completed of making assignments to catch that up to at least some.
Well, we've got a school graduating in March, and then we should have one around the first week in August. That's 50. Assuming everybody graduates, we should look at 50 additional prisoners. We will have some turnover in that time, and I don't know exactly what that number will be yet. The assignment of those troopers, they decide based on where the needs are, and honestly, at this point, it's anybody's guess as to where they're going
They're going to be used on the interstate system in the metro area.
where the 10 troopers will come from. But I don't see a problem with delaying it a quarter to implement it to see where the people will be. I mean, we monitor where we have vacancies twice a month. Every time we do a payroll, we check to see where people have left.
Terry, do you have any idea what your lapse rate is going to be? How much ahead you will be with these 2 trooper schools? Do you have any indication now of how many retirements you're going to have? Or?
I know that from history, we have the 2 previous years to this one we've lost 100 sworn positions.
A year?
No, in a 2-year period.
Oh, in a 2-year period. I'm sorry. So your 2 trooper schools all of these trooper schools, all they will do at the best is keep you even.
When they're already behind.
When they're already behind, that's right.
Not even sure they're keeping me.
We had to get that way because all the state agencies had to do a reduction, and we lost $16 million out of our budget over a 3-year period. So we had to not start trooper schools, keep positions unfilled, and it's just.
We'll take care of Jill's motion, and we'll do whatever you want to do.
Just add a
Better
third
idea
school.
of what you need is do it.
By annualizing the 2 schools, Mr. Chairman, we will continue to build and
Let's add a third school.
I know that Representative Porter and I are going to come back next year and get even more funds for them.
What we're talking about, you want to
Go ahead. No, you address it.
We're talking about, y'all struggled with the personnel issue. And we added that 2nd school. Do you need a 3rd school at least a couple of years? Would that be better off to do that?
Well, I see Dale smiling because there's no way to schedule that 3rd school, is it? Isn't that one of your problems? I mean,
It is, Mr.
at the training center.
And there's a dual funding issue too. If you're funding them and you're not funding us, then we're having to cut back on whatever else we've been doing at the same time. There's a relationship when these other agencies do get more folks, because we're taking the same cuts as everybody else is, and then when we get into these issues where we might have 100 troopers authorized and coming through school, we may only be able to fund one of those schools on our end.
I just know, how do we get you caught up, much less ahead?
The only way that I can see it is we've got to bump up the number of troopers we're sending through the schools. And I can only do it based on what I can actually afford to send out of our budget or whatever we're appropriating.
Would it be better to increase the number in those two classes than to add a third?
To increase them from 25 to 35 or to 40, or what number really works?
We have a 40.
What number, Dale, could...
Training unit has told me is that they would prefer to work with a class no larger than 60 troopers at one time.
Well, let's do 50. Let's just go back to 50.
Different times as many as started 100 at one time, but 100 is way too many probably. And I agree with his assessment. The trainers would rather keep it about 60.
Oh, let's do 50 back like it was.
The problem, with all due respect, is them finding 60 people to put in there, because they diligently hunted and only found 35 for each one of these, and then dropped back down to 25.
Are you better off with two schools of 40 or one school of 50 and one of 25, or are we better off just to say X amount of troopers in school and y'all figure out how to put the numbers together for the schools?
We're probably better off if you appropriate X number of dollars for X number of troopers, and then we work with State Patrol, committing resources. For example, the Department of Corrections has this Sunday over about 250 coming in. We've got 498 beds in the dorm. If we take that and then we put the troopers in there and we put the GBI class in there, all the basics stays with us, then any other student that comes from your local sheriff's office or PD, we're rolling over to the motel, and I'm having to pick up that tab, and that tab runs up real quick.
All right, Dale, between you and Terry, let me see if I understand also. If we gave you 80, y'all pick a number, whatever y'all want to do, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, if they can get 50 per school, let them get them.
Well, here's where I'm coming to. We've also got to adjust Dale's budget to handle dollars too.
Need more money.
Do you currently have enough to do a class of 50, or do you need more money to go to 50 in each class?
I believe that we can handle 50 in each year at this point. And that's our plans for next year.
What we've been having to do is to charge them back for the extra students, because we have raw food costs, we have beds that are taken out with people rolling into the motels, and that's where that chargeback comes from.
Y'all tell me what you want to do, and we'll try to figure out how to do it, which will also, if you don't mind me coming back to your proposal, if we do this, and then we'll address yours.
Well, if he's got the money to do classes at two classes at 50, do we need to? The trouble is getting them in the class or keeping them once they start. How do we help you be able to do that?
I mean, what we're doing right now is trying to work on the recruiting side and get out to different places. We're going after military personnel as much as possible.
Just coming back.
To try to get more to apply for the possibility of getting them in the school.
So money is not the problem. It's just getting them into school. Then.
Money is not my problem for handling 50 people for the trooper school. I can't speak on Dale's behalf. It might create some burden there. But if we go much beyond that, then I'm going to be tight on funds.
What would you need to go to a full 250 class?
Even sir, if we did an estimate on how much we're having to charge now because of the extra people and extra food and everything else, it runs about, I think Terry talked about 25,000 a month with the charge back. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
So you can figure about 150,000 more in our budget for the level that you're talking about.
That would be better.
Do you want to make that in the form of a motion that we, what I think I hear you saying is recommend 2 trooper schools of 50 and $150,000 into Dale's budget to cover the additional cost of those.
That looks like the best way.
Is that okay with you, Dale?
Yes, sir.
Terry, is that all right with you?
And Mr. Chairman, we've always worked well with the state patrol. The problem is sometimes these schools don't get funded until we've already made our schedule. We make our schedule for a year ahead of time.
Right.
Now we're trying to drop in a long-term class in the middle of already committed facilities. Thanks, sir.
Did you just say 2 trooper schools of 50?
Yes.
That might be a little tight, because the annualizer we got isn't really covering 2 trooper schools of 50.
If we put more money in his budget, or do we need to put it in yours since he's charging you back for that?
Yeah, he's charging me for meals, lodging, some of the things that are.
So we need to put it
So
in
would
your
it be in
budget.
your budget that he could draw against to do this, or in his?
My budget is really the salaries of the individuals. That's all I got funded for the 2 previous trooper schools.
Well, if you start 2 trooper schools of 100, in theory, if you filled each of them, you're not going to graduate but 70 to 75 anyway, are you? I mean,
Right. We were looking at the possibility of trying to start 70 to 75 so that we would graduate 50.
okay.
Right, let's start 100 and graduate 70.
Tell us, Ollie, let me ask you this, if it's all right. I think we know what the intent is. What if Ollie gets with Terry and Dale afterwards and see if we can figure out how many dollars it's going to take? That's not exactly the way to do it, but
Well, we
it's
think we're looking at around 150,000.
just for them.
Just for
That's not annualizing salaries.
Annualizing the additional.
I just found 150,000.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Let's see how much more we got to have. Who out there ain't going to be happy with you? But anyway, let's see how much. How much, Terry, would it take, though, roughly annualizing that? Do you have any idea?
each trooper, if we exclude equipment amount, we just do salary alone. With salaries, it's a little over 40,000 per trooper on an annualized basis. Because their salaries a little over 30,000. I think with the pay raise next year, we're looking at a little over 32. And there's about a 35% fringe benefit rate. So it's about 40,000 per trooper times whatever number of troopers we're going to go through on an annualized basis.
So times 25 more, hopefully.
Yeah, 20, 25 more troopers.
We all know what the problem the last several years of cuts have done in the agency. We see this as a priority to try to help. I mean, this still doesn't get you back where you need to be.
Well, is it all right with y'all if Ollie gets with them and let's see, and then we'll adjust these numbers accordingly? I hate to ask you to vote on something that we don't have the exact number on, but is that okay?
Yeah, you can ballpark it from that. I understand.
All right, back to you, Jill. I'm sorry. So you want to put the 200,000 back? You want to raise that seven
here.
It doesn't have to start with 10. We could start with 6 or 8 and build on it once the funds start coming in from the fine collection. I think we'll be able to start.
Well, it's not going to be dedicated funds, though.
Well, it's not going to be dedicated funds, but we'll be able to track it.
What's the wishes of the committee?
And I have no problem delaying the implementation of the program, so that way we are not taking folks away from other areas of the state that need it.
Why don't you can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
That you don't implement it instead of July the 1st, implementing it January the 1st.
I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman.
And then doing half of whatever, just moving that 7.74 to whatever number it needs to be to do it on a 6-month basis for the 10.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I appreciate that, Mr.
Does
Chairman.
anybody,
And cover what they're gonna come up with.
and then cover what they're going to come, is that all right with y'all?
Yeah.
Alan, y'all all right with y'all?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Isla, you got that?
So are you doing 100,000?
Well, it'd be whatever, what was, I thought it was 225. I got half of whatever it takes to implement the 10 for half of a year. Anything else? I know you got a bond question. Anything else on the troopers before we go to the bonds? Or with, okay. Mr. Powell.
I'd like to take a look at item 54, 55, 56, and 58.
This is on page 3 of 5 on the bonds that were passed out that are not marked up.
Item 54, we're bonding, in these 3 items. 54, we're bonding basically what should be maintenance items, sliding, docking devices, renovations. 55 is fund door and window frame replacements. 56 is to fund basically the locks that I believe Representative Chambers had asked about during the hearing. I'm not quite sure we ever got it.
Well, we got an email today.
And,
Actually, I emailed you the other day.
Yeah, well, we got it.
What I'd like the committee to consider, if we've got these, in my opinion, those should be just general maintenance issues rather than putting them out on bonded indebtedness. If you look on 58, the $7.5 million on this planning phase down at TIP, that's $640,000. We could cover all of those, pay cash for these renovations and these maintenance issues right here, and still it'd be $40,000 extra. I think the combination of those 54, 55, 56, $605,000, pay for it with the cash, and eliminate that. If there'd be some $40,000 left, we could start some preliminary studies on that TIF college, because I don't think this committee got all the answers that we wanted on this TIF college business.
And Mr. Chairman, to elaborate on what Representative Powell has mentioned, they talk about the $7.5 million bond for the moving and design of moving over there. Their estimates are actually $3.8 million, and they rounded up the bond to 7.5. So there's our money for the pay for the. If they insist on using bond money for locks and maintenance items, here's their money for that right there, and wrapped up in another bond. There's no need to issue 2 additional bonds and pay the interest on that.
Representative Chambers, just so you know, the bonds are rounded up.
Okay.
The implements tied. I think it just makes it easier.
But that makes it.
Right.
We can take those and put them in under that if necessary, and that way we can eliminate the other 2. Thank you. Good work.
Representative Powell, if I understood you right, let me rephrase it, make sure I understood you right. What you're talking about doing is eliminating line 58, taking that $640,000 and paying for lines 55, 56,
Right,
54, 50.
If the committee was in agreement, since those
Well,
were 354,
it's up to the committee.
56, looks to be general maintenance items instead of bonding those, and we would shift the money for that total of $605,600, shift it into a line item for maintenance in the corrections budget.
It's up to the committee, whatever they'd like to do.
So basically, in doing that, then you would be canceling the removed Department of Corrections or anticipating to TIF college. Are you anticipating they would be able to do that at some future time, or? Okay.
David, I kept you longer than I told you. I'm sorry. I'll make sure my money stays in there. I'll make sure your money stays in there.
More definite plans. Question.
Yes, sir.
Representative Bernard asked a question about future plans. I said, yeah, I think at some point, future plans after this committee or future committees have something definitely spelled out about TIF College.
Did y'all understand that what he's talking about? You want to make that in the form of a motion, or what do you want to do?
I will make that in the form of a motion at the proper time, if this is the proper time.
It's proper time if you wish to.
What I'd like to move is that we eliminate items 54, 55, 56 in the bond package. Add those together, and I believe my addition comes up, that'd be $605,600. shift it over into a line item into maintenance. You can specify that same language as a maintenance to pay cash for the maintenance items on those, and to pay for that with the money out of that money designated under line 58. And that would leave some $40,000 or thereabouts, or $35,000 to $40,000 extra. And y'all could figure out if y'all wanted to leave that in for some preliminary planning under that item as cash, and leave it as a preliminary planning instead of doing all this bonded stuff on what should be general maintenance.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion?
So basically just making a clarification, what you're basically saying is because we really didn't get the bottom of the TIF movement when we were questioning the department, we'll set that aside until they can explain that a little better to us.
Well, I think that's exactly right. I never did get a clear answer about the TIF college. You know, we heard all of this about how much money that the DOC was going to save by moving out of the Twin Towers. To me, there was an error in explanation of that. This property that's over here at the Twin Towers, where DOC has central office, that's already owned by the state, and they're only paying. That's only a paper transfer on what they're paying. So what they anticipate doing is going to TIF College, setting up a whole new headquarters division down there. So that's just adding into the expansion of something they've already got room for. And I don't think we ever got down and got a clear answer on that.
Any further discussion?
Tell me exactly what you're recommending now.
How about restate it?
All right, exactly what I'm recommending is on item 54.
Okay.
$456,000.
Right.
That's this bonded indebtedness secure sliding docking devices.
Right. Got it.
Under item 55, 91, which is bonded debt, 91,200 to fund windows and door frame replacements. And item 56 is $68,400 that would fund lock and control systems at Lee Arendelle, or excuse me, at Lee State. These, in my opinion, should be maintenance issues. So we would strike all three of those items, which should come, and I believe if my addition, it'd be $605,600. Move that as a line item, specify what that money is for, and pay for it in cash in the line item in their budget. Strike it from bonded indebtedness, and you pay for that by striking item 58, and this is the renovations and planning at TIF College.
Does that answer your question?
So you're saying take out the TIF college money?
I'm talking about taking all of it out, pay cash for those other items that ought to be general maintenance anyway, instead of borrowing money over a period of time to pay for those items.
Now I understand.
That is the motion that I would be making.
We need, if you move these to cash, you need the principal amount. You don't need the debt service amount.
Well, that's what I was fixing to ask him. That's Representative Powell, what she just told me, and that's what I was looking at. When I did my addition, I don't think you're looking at the bonded payment instead of the total dollars.
That's what I was looking at.
Look at in your language under 54, there's $2,700,000 to do those projects, not the $600,000.
Right?
Well, you're adding up with the funds to pay this year.
That's what I was going to ask.
I stand corrected then, and you're exactly right. I'm looking at the money we're putting to pay the bond.
Right.
Yeah,
Just 55.
I'm looking at the total to do the project.
Your motion is still to eliminate those, but
Mr. Chairman,
Well, then I can amend
do away
that.
with the site training program, and I'll withdraw my second to his motion. It does jeopardize the headquarters training schedule.
now let me ask a question that maybe Mike could clear up some of what Representative Powell has asked. If you look on what Megan just gave you, except for the renovation, you will see that I believe the $900,000 under the project cost for Tift College, I believe the $900,000, the $330,000, I mean $3,300,000, the $4,100,000, I believe those are the numbers, those three numbers for design, site work, and asbestos are the numbers that you see listed under the $7.5 million.
Right.
Now, a question I have is all of that work going to take place in the next 12 months by the time these bonds are, or could you take part of that money and do some of what you want to do? You follow me on that?
As I was looking at, Representative Chambers just made a suggestion, and I'd like to reconstruct my motion. If you will only look at item 55 and 56, and these two maintenance items, that comes up to $700,000.
Okay.
That we could use this $640,000 to almost pay for those maintenance items. Leave the $2 million in the bonds in there for these sliding docking devices.
Okay. Leave line item 54 in.
Just leave it alone.
Okay.
You've got $400,000 under, which is
right.
Total bond under 55. $300,000 in total bonds under 56.
$700,000.
Right. You've got $640,000 down here in this Tift College. We would be within $60,000 of eliminating a pair of bonds that are general maintenance, that should be listed as general maintenance items.
Everybody understand that? In other words, what you want to do is just reduce that bond from $7.5 million to 6.8.
I'd like for us to use that cash to pay for those bonds.
Right. Reduce that bond from 7.5 to 6.8. Everybody understand that?
How much is that going to save us?
That's 6.8. I mean, and when you look at what they're wanting to do on site work, design, asbestos design, what that does is just reduce the amount that would be available in this first phase. It wouldn't do away with the project. It just would reduce it by $700,000. Is that the fair statement? Look at this.
How much is that going to save us in interest if we do that?
All right.
Reducing those two will save us about $70,000 in interest over the life of those loans. That's a tremendous amount of money.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Let the banker speak.
I'm just sitting here taking all this in, and it's pretty obvious that the Department of Correction has not treated this committee with the respect that it deserves. No one doubts that. We've asked some things of the department. It appears that they've yet to come through with that. But on the other side, I'm concerned about making these decisions as we are right at this moment. What I'm curious is maybe we should actually sort of give this a little more thought. Maybe we could work this out in our conference committee.
Whatever this committee wishes to do, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, we'll do whatever the committee wants to do.
Well, I guess the point that I'm getting to is, one is I'd like to get rid of some of these bonds that should be under general maintenance. But I'm also opposed to Tift College bonded indebtedness without a little bit more clarity about what their plans are. You know, part of what was said in the committee, I had no problem with using the Tift College campus as a training center. But to go down and to start building and moving, shifting central headquarters down there, to me that's sort of short-sighted in my opinion. And I heard all the arguments that they tried, or the veiled arguments they've made over the last 3 years to that. But for this type of money, we're talking about we're talking about $44 million to start with on a lot of older buildings. It's got asbestos in them. And I just see some major problems. I see a lot of extra costs coming down there.
This is phase one then, is that right?
This is phase one.
So whether phase one's at 6.8 or 7.5.
That's the question, right? Well, that's one of Representative Powell's questions, and then his other concern was the $7.5 million altogether, I think. So.
It'd be fine to take the other cash and spend on renovation, basically build it into your cash, because I think they'll spend it there.
Well, there's not a motion right now on the floor, since the motion was withdrawn by Representative Powell.
Well, I guess the point I'm making, does anyone have any questions about this proposal down here with Tift College? Or is everybody, they feel like they just want to leave it in, or?
I'd like to get a better breakdown. You make a valid point.
Or I will make a motion that we strike item 58 in its entirety, and then we can figure out what y'all wish to do with that money.
Well, if we did nothing with the money then goes back on the table, back into the...
And then it could go for pay raises for... Troopers, extra troopers, law enforcement activities that are that is sorely missing. I mean, I certainly appreciate everything that has been put forth about the additional 2% pay raise for law enforcement. This could be some extra money that could go into that pot, and hopefully bump some of those salaries for our law enforcement community.
It's whatever the committee wishes to do.
I'd be glad to make that in the form of the motion.
If you want to make a motion, you got the right to.
We strike line 58. And then that $640,000 will be on the table for the committee to decide.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
I don't see where that's going.
You have a few things to negotiate with, don't you?
It's up to this committee, whatever they wish to do.
I guess what my thoughts are we more interested in expanding office space or putting this money where it needs to be going out there into the field for a lot of our law enforcement personnel?
One of the problems that I see that the state is real good about, and I think I mentioned this before, is building buildings and then never maintaining them properly. So, we'll do whatever. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Let's call the vote.
There has been a to call the vote, a motion made to call the vote. Any opposition to calling the vote? All those in favor of striking line 58 on page 3 of 5 in its entirety, I guess you better have a show of hands. I got an idea it's going to be divided. All those in favor, how about raise your hand? You can raise either one of them. It doesn't matter which one. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? Well, those were slow to come.
Yeah.
4-3. I think the motion carries to strike line 58 on page 3, which is the $7.5 million in bonding.
And I would like to thank my conservative friends on this. My pro-law enforcement conservative friends.
Now the question is, what do you want to reallocate that money, or do you want to put that money back that would, if it is not reallocated, would be actually money that would go into reserve? Yes, sir.
I have an interest actually in the Department of Corrections where I would make a recommendation that we put that money back. Line 116, where we cut the 3.5% for the CPI increase. Just 470 additional beds.
This is on page 13 of 24.
Right. that would actually give us another 470 additional budget to help reduce the cost in the jail. I would like to recommend we put at least that 4.2 million back in there.
What line is that?
Well, now that won't be 4.2 million now.
Oh.
That'll only be the amount of indebtedness.
How much is the amount of indebtedness? 640.
640,000.
We don't have a lot of work to do.
What line?
I like that to take that other money for,
Sir,
what are y'all talking about now?
what he was talking about is this 640,000. That is the payment on that $7.5 million on line 58 of what to do with it.
And do we want to put it in maintenance?
Well, that's what he's.
Instead of bonding, eliminate the other bonds?
I'd like to
use
just
all
throw
this
an idea
again?
out for the committee.
Yeah, I got confused.
On line 55, 56, that was a total of 700,000.
In other words, you could reduce. You could take that bond out also because you pick up.
You could take those bonds out. You got 640,000 of the 700,000.
No, you got more than that. If you take them out, you got 640 plus 91 plus 68. You got 730. You got 800,000. If you take those three items out, you got 800,000.
But we can pay 55 and 56.
That's right.
That's a good idea. We take
You want to make that in the form of a motion?
I will. Ever what you just said.
Okay. What I just said was, and I think what you're saying is take line 55 and 56, eliminate those two bonds also. Take the cash that's generated from lines 55, 56, and 58, reallocate that money to pay cash for the items in lines 55 and 56. Is that what you said?
I think so, and I think we're still going to have some change left over.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Think of all the interest we're saving.
How much you got left over? You have that?
Yeah, I can tell you. You got 800. You got 800,000, and you're going to spend 700, so you're 100 ahead.
All right.
There's a motion to that effect. Wait a minute.
If my figures are right, that comes to $800,325. You've got 700,000 on items. The total spending of those two bonds is 700,000. If by striking all three of those line items, that's 800,000. So you still got 100,000, roughly $100,000, which might go into one of those law enforcement programs that y'all were.
I think it would be good to put it into Dale Mann's to pay for the training of the extra troopers.
You've only got 100,000 now. If you're going to pay for items 55 and 56 with cash, you got $100,000.
Well, that's 100,000 that they wouldn't have. We'd go ahead and put that in there.
And that's also a lot of extra bonded indebtedness that we won't have on
That's good idea.
Then we got 3,000 left over.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
She already said.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion? Does everybody understand what we're voting on now?
On reducing the bond.
Oh, reducing the bonds, taking 700,000, paying for cash, taking the other 100,000 and putting into the training center. Is that right?
Exactly.
That the motion?
And that's the motion. We put a line item for the maintenance of 55, 56. We put a line item for the maintenance with the same language into the line item into their budget. Got 100,000, shift it over.
Okay. Y'all ready to vote on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? For that one, we didn't have to worry about the hand counts. All right, anything else that anybody has on this, either in the bonds?
Did we spend the 100,000?
You spent the 100,000 by giving it back to the training center.
I was going to suggest we give the commissioner's salary back.
That's okay. The $2 million. Don't worry about it now.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it. You will confuse everybody. If we have to, we'll revisit that one. I appreciate it though. Thank you for telling me. Is there anything else? Are y'all ready to vote on this, or do you want to make any more changes, additions, corrections?
Well,
They're going to make those changes that we would incorporate.
Subject to the change.
Subject to the changes. Is there a motion that all of the items on the tracking sheet is presented along with the items that will get worked out between Eiley and, okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank y'all so much. I know y'all want tracking sheets, don't you? I'm sorry you can't have them.